Welcome back, dear listeners, to another thrilling installment of Oliver the Time Traveler. We're about to dive back into the mesmerizing world of time travel, where every twist and turn holds a new adventure. As we rejoin Oliver, we find him on a sun-drenched road just outside the ancient city of Olympia in Greece. The warm Mediterranean sun bathes the landscape in a golden glow, setting the stage for a day filled with discovery, laughter, and the promise of ancient mysteries waiting to be unraveled. So, dear listeners, fasten your seatbelts, or should we say, fasten your sandals, as we journey back in time with Oliver, Isabella, and Nikos on this sunny road in Greece. Let's dive right in, and you won't want to miss a moment of it. Oliver and Isabella exchange knowing glances and swiftly remove their modern shoes, tucking them away into their bags. They sit side by side on the cart as Nikos guides the donkey and cart toward his home. Nikos shares the news of their impending arrival with excitement. "My wife will be delighted to meet you," he says. "We can talk safely in my garden, where I'll explain more about where I came from." As the cart moves along, Nikos offers a glimpse into his own time. "The year where I originally came from is 1899. I hail from London in the United Kingdom, and my real name is Henry." Oliver and Isabella respond. "Our names are Oliver and Isabella. We're delighted to meet you, Nikos, or should we say, Henry." Nikos chuckles as he shares his preferences. "Please, call me Nikos," he insists. "I've been living just outside Olympia for 14 years now, and it's become more fitting." He then turns to Oliver and Isabella with a smile. "Isabella and Oliverios," he says with a twinkle in his eye. "Those names will suit our conversation perfectly, just in case someone should overhear." The cart comes to a stop in front of a picturesque white house, enveloped by lush grapevines. Nikos gestures to the charming abode and says with humility, "Welcome to my humble dwelling. Please, make yourselves at home. My wife will be thrilled to meet you both." Oliver, Isabella, and Nikos step off the cart, in the welcoming garden of his ancient Greek home. With a warm smile, a woman emerges from the charming white house and walks towards Nikos. She greets him with a loving embrace and a squeeze of the hand, her eyes filled with warmth. Nikos introduces her to Oliver and Isabella, saying proudly, "Please, meet my beloved wife, Sophia." Sophia turns her attention to the newcomers. Curious, she asks Nikos, "Who did you bring with you today, dear?" Nikos smiles and replies, "These are Isabella and Oliverios. I met them on the way and decided to invite them for lunch. There's much to talk about." As Nikos discreetly raises his eyebrows, he exchanges a subtle, secret sign with his wife. She quickly picks up on his unspoken message and responds with an amazed and knowing smile to all three of them. Sophia says, "Please, make yourselves comfortable in the garden. Follow me, because Nikos will see to the donkey, providing it with some food and water." Following Sophia into an enchanting garden behind the house, Oliver and Isabella are welcome to take a seat on relaxed benches or chairs amid the fragrant flowers and olive trees. The garden exudes a sense of serenity, complete with a charming little well. As they settle themselves on a bench in the dappled shade, Oliver and Isabella exchange a glance filled with a shared sense of wonder. This unexpected adventure has already proven to be something quite extraordinary. Sophia disappears into the house to fetch refreshments, leaving Oliver and Isabella to soak in the beauty of their surroundings. Amidst the blossoms and the gentle murmur of the well, they find themselves in a serene moment of reflection. Just then, Nikos rounds the corner and takes a seat on another bench, his friendly eyes fixed on Oliver and Isabella. Breaking the peaceful silence, he leans forward and asks his first question, curiosity gleaming in his gaze. "From what year are you both?" Nikos leans forward on the bench, a look of sincere conviction in his eyes. "I believe my own experience is true," he begins, his voice steady. "But I must admit, I still don't fully understand what happened to me. What I do know is that I'm grateful to be here in Greece, in this very moment." He smiles warmly, his eagerness to share his story evident. However, before I dive into my own tale, I'm quite intrigued to hear more about the two of you, Oliver and Isabella. My wife Sophia is originally from Olympia. She believes in my story, and she's been my anchor through all of this. But please tell me your story, I am very curious. Oliver takes a deep breath and begins to share their story with Nikos. I come from the year 2022, he says, his voice steady and resolute. I'm 19 years old. He turns towards Isabella and adds. And Isabella here is from the year 1922. She's 21 years old. Nikos listens attentively, his expression a mix of astonishment and fascination. Then, he breaks into laughter, a warm and genuine sound that fills the garden. Amazing, he exclaims. You two are pretty much the same age, only differing by 100 years. That's truly something to ponder. It's a remarkable connection you share, and it makes this encounter even more special. Oliver continues with his tale, a glimmer of adventure in his eyes. I've crossed time and space, he explains, and the full story will be too long to share now. But in short, I have the tools that could potentially help you return home if that's what you desire. Then Sophia emerges from the house with plates of freshly baked bread and an assortment of ripe fruits. Her gentle voice interjects. I understand that you're all eager to talk, but I think it will be nice to first have something to eat and drink. Nikos, caught up in the excitement of the moment, jumps up and nods, saying, My apologies, dear. There is indeed so much to share and to listen to. He swiftly gets up and goes to the house and returns with 2 big jars and some cups. Nikos turns to his wife, Sophia, and shares the newfound knowledge with a proud smile. His real name is Oliver and is 19 years old, and he hails from the year 2022. Isabella, her real name is Isabella, and she is 21 years old, and she's from the year 1922. Sophia, mid-bite, stops chewing as her eyes widen with astonishment. She swallows her piece of bread and exclaims, But that is truly amazing. Sophia, still trying to wrap her mind around the concept of time travel, confesses, I can't quite comprehend what those years mean precisely. But for a point of reference, I am currently 42 years old, and Nikos here is 45. She smiles warmly and adds, I met Nikos when he was 31, and our lives have been intertwined ever since. Nikos, with glasses filled once more, takes a deep breath and begins to share his extraordinary story. Let me tell you about what happened to me, he says. Nikos's eyes take on a distant gleam as he begins to narrate his extraordinary tale. I was an up-and-coming race car driver, he says, his voice carrying the thrill of the memories. It was the year 1899, and the world was abuzz with excitement over the first official car races. This race was stretching from Paris to Toulouse. As he speaks, Nikos's words seem to transport him back in time, reliving the thrill of the race. I vividly remember participating in one of those races, he continues, his voice filled with the adrenaline of the moment. The roaring engines, the cheering crowds, the rush of speed, it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. But then, with a sudden change in tone, he describes a fateful moment. During the race, disaster struck, Nikos says, his voice tinged with a mixture of awe and disbelief. There was a crash, a collision that sent my car tumbling. He pauses, as if still processing the events of that day. His eyes shimmer with both nostalgia and amazement. Nikos continues, his voice filled with a sense of wonder and mystery. I only remember the crash, he says, his words measured and thoughtful. The deafening noise, the acrid smell of oil, and the cheers of the audience, all of it is etched in my memory. His gaze distant, he reflects on the sensations of that fateful day. But then, everything faded, Nikos continues, his tone marked by a sense of awe. I found myself surrounded by blinding white lights. And when those white lights faded, I found myself right here, just outside Olympia, behind this very house in this beautiful garden. He smiles at the memory. That's when I met Sophia, he adds, a hint of playfulness in his voice. She was working in the garden and suddenly found me there, still dressed in my racing clothes. As Nikos paints this extraordinary picture of his arrival in ancient Greece, Oliver and Isabella share a knowing grin, recognizing the peculiarities of their respective journeys through time and space. He shakes his head, still unable to fully comprehend the enigma of his journey. "I've searched for answers, but I can't make sense of it," he admits, a hint of frustration in his voice. "These racing clothes are the only witnesses to my inexplicable arrival from another era to this very place." With a smile, Oliver extends his left hand above the table, folding back the white draped sleeve to reveal the watch. He gazes at Nikos and Sophia, his eyes reflecting a hint of curiosity as he gently asks, "Is there any chance that you were wearing something like this when the accident happened?" Nikos looks utterly astonished as he shifts his gaze between the watch and Oliver. Nikos's reaction is nothing short of astonishment. His eyes wide and his face a portrait of disbelief, he exclaims, "That is amazing!" Suddenly overcome with emotion, he jumps up from his seat, his hand instinctively reaching for his forehead in a gesture of bewilderment. After a moment of intense contemplation, he slowly eases back into his chair, his gaze returning to the watch. With trembling finger, he points at it, but the words remain caught in his throat. Nikos, still in a state of wonder, finally finds his voice and says, "How on earth is this possible?" He leans forward, his eyes fixed on the watch, as he begins to share its mysterious origin. "I got this watch from my grandfather," he explains, his words filled with a sense of revelation. "Back then, I had no idea what it truly was or how to use it. I thought it was merely a bracelet, a trinket. But I believed it held some kind of magic, some power that could help me. During the car races, I would always put it on," Nikos continues. "And I seriously believed it brought me luck, that it protected me in some way." His voice takes on a tone of awe. "Now, looking at it with fresh eyes, I realize it holds far more power than I could ever have comprehended." Oliver listens intently to Nikos's story, his amazement still evident in his expression. He then leans forward, addressing Nikos and Sophia with a thoughtful look. "I met someone who explained how the watch functions and how to use it," he says, his tone tinged with a sense of understanding. "So, if you ever want to go back to the year 1899. Before he can finish his offer, Nikos shakes his head with a contented smile. "Oh, no, thank you," he interjects. His voice carries a note of genuine happiness as he continues. He casts a loving glance at Sophia and adds, "I am extremely happy here with my beautiful wife, Sophia. We have found happiness here in the warmth of the sun, and I wouldn't prefer to go back to that gritty time period in England. Life is much better here, beyond those dusty roads. I've been thinking about what would happen if I could go back to that year. It would probably be racing, and ultimately facing to crash again and again." Nikos's choice is clear, and as he looks at Sophia, it's evident that he has found his paradise in ancient Greece, where he has built a life filled with joy and contentment. Nikos, with a warm and welcoming smile, turns to Oliver and Isabella, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Don't you want to come and live here as well?" he asks, his voice filled with genuine kindness. "On the piece of land next to our house, on the hill, there's plenty of space to build a house for the two of you." Dear listeners, as the sun casts its warm glow over the serene garden in ancient Olympia, we leave our company of friends for now. Their stories interwoven by the watch that brought them together. With laughter and shared memories, they embrace the mysteries of time and the bonds that transcend eras. As we bid farewell to this radiant day, we extend our gratitude to you, dear listeners, for joining us on this remarkable journey. If you've enjoyed our tale, please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and we eagerly look forward to reuniting with you in the next episode of Oliver the Time Traveler's Adventures. Until then, take care and journey well through time. We invite you, dear listeners, to journey through time by exploring earlier episodes of Oliver the Time Traveler, and discover the captivating adventures and mysterious encounters that have shaped Oliver's extraordinary quest. Thank you for listening. Till the next one.